Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
The SLUG. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds. Back again, Salt Strong Unchurched. And if I'm talking a little slower, it's because that's part of the message here today. So our life has been a little bit hectic here recently. We've, Luke and I have sold the company, and you would think, oh man, everything must be nice and slow and retirement. No, we obviously signed on to keep running the company. And when you have a company that just invested heavily in you, they expect things to keep growing and expect big things, as they should. And we should. That's how we're wired, and we love it. So all that being said, my life has been like busier than ever. And also part of the deal was, the Sportsman's Guide, that's one of the kind of the sister companies that's owned by Crucero Brands as well. They're really trying to go heavy into content and community, which is something that we're frankly pretty good at. And so they've been leaning on me quite a bit. And so like last week I was, waking up at 4 a.m. to go out and help them film some hunting stuff. And the week before, same thing. So there's been a lot of like 4 a.m., kind of calls, which kind of disrupts our whole family. Normally I'm the one getting all 3 kids breakfast and kind of getting them all moving. And then my wife has to step in. She's working. So a lot of stuff going on. Also with the sell of the company, we got a little cash. It was our first time taking some real chips off the table. We live in an old house. I've shared this before on the podcast. It was built in 1970 on the dot, and we're here in 2025 as I'm recording this. So it's an older house. Everything is original for the most part. We've had to do a few things like new ACs and water heaters, but and a roof, but everything else from the floors to the sinks. We had to replace a couple toilets that finally just had on their last leg. It looked horrible, but for the most part, it's a beautiful property, 3+ acres on a lake. It really is pristine. Just the driveway and the beautiful trees, the southern magnolias that are there. It really is exquisite. The house, not so much. So we finally have enough money to do all these renovations that we've talked about. So now we're meeting with like multiple builders and interviewing different builders and trying to come up with plans. And so we got a draftsman and architect to do all this new stuff, and still trying to work the deal out on this property for this the theme park. Just there's a ton of stuff going on. It didn't help that over the weekend, I won't go into all the details, but Jackson had an issue, and we had to take him to the hospital. So Lauren was in Orlando in the emergency room till really late. And then I had to go all the way to Fort Myers for a soccer game. We feel like we've been going 100 miles an hour and barely even time to like catch up. And so I found myself just 2 mornings ago, just doing the same thing, waking up crazy early just to get all this stuff done. And I found myself rushing through my normal ritual of writing to God. I've talked about it. I'd say a little prayer, and I usually in the same spot every day in my desk. And I have a beautiful view out of the windows here, big bay windows in my office that look out on the lake. And it has been a little bit nice, even though I'm not a fan of the clock going back or forwards with daylight saving time. I think it just should be leave it as is, but. The only good news is, as someone who wakes up early, the sun does come up a little bit earlier right now here in the month of November. And I'm able to at least see out a little bit better. Normally, it's just, in the summertime, I wake up early, it's just pitch black out there. I can't really see the lake. So I was able to see the lake just a little bit, just the small amount of light starting to come up. Sun had not come up yet. And I'm rushing through my devotions, essentially rushing through my talk with God. Normally I'm writing stuff out. I'm like even rushing through that. So I did it, but I didn't really do it, if you know what I mean. I was just rushing. Everything was a rush. And then I'm going and making coffee real quick. I'm in like full on rush mode. Everything has a sense of urgency. And I think there's a time and place for that. But my wife even noticed, and she's trying to give me an update on what's happening. And my uncle passed away. So we're having his a celebration of life, kind of the funeral here tonight. Tonight. Blanking on my days, already so much going on. And so she's like, hey, maybe you just want to slow down for a little bit. So my wife said it. And normally, if your wife tells you something, it's almost like your wife is God. Like, they know best. So I heard her say it. I did not ignore her. I didn't filter her out. So I heard her say it. I'm like, yeah, maybe she's right. But I ignored her and just kept going 100 miles an hour. I was like, I got to get going to get, jump on this. And I got to get on a call here to update the team about this. And I'm also up and work with the other team at the Sportsman's Guide. And so I feel like I'm running 2 jobs and still trying to be a good parent, a good husband. And now I'm trying to essentially, help with contractors, and my wife usually can't meet them, and it just a lot going on. So I'm sitting here in full rush mode. I'm leaving the kitchen. My wife had just told me maybe I need to slow down, and I was like, well, I really want this property, and the guy we're talking with is being I'm and this is not a negative thing. He has every right to be this, but I'm going to use the word stubborn, and not in a rush to sell. And so I'm like, well, I've got to get him to sell it. And she's like, maybe this is just not the time. Maybe we get through all the house renovations first, and then we can talk about, the exciting property. And she's obviously excited about it, but she's seeing how stressed out I am. And I don't know if it's the word stressed, because I don't feel like I'm stressed. I'm just in a rush and urgent. So all that being said, I leave the kitchen. My wife has just told me to slow down, and I come sit in my chair where I sit every single morning and do all the devotions. And now I'm ready to get on the day. And I look up, and I didn't even have to look up because I could just sense something was like on the window. It's a massive slug. And if you don't know what a slug is, imagine a snail without a shell. And the reason it doesn't have a shell, there's a shell that could fit this sucker. This is like a 4.5, 5-inch slug. It was massive, right in the middle of this window. I've been sitting in this same seat. Now we've lived here for almost 5 years coming up. 5 years. I've sat in the same seat where I'm recording this podcast right now. I've looked out this window, who knows how many hours. I work from home. I'm here every day, 8 hours a day, every day. And sometimes in the night and the mornings, it's a lot of hours. You can do the math. I mean, over 5 years, I have never once seen a slug on this window. Now, you can say what you want, and I know there's a podcast about how I believe God does control everything, including animals and insects, etc. He's got his thumb on all of them, and I really do believe that sometimes he uses things, not all the time. It doesn't mean every time you see an animal or a butterfly or a slug, it's signifying something, but it was pretty crazy that I've been here 5 years. I have never seen a slug anywhere near one of these windows, let alone I don't know if I've seen a slug over here like that. This thing is massive, impossible to ignore. And I sat there and I literally just smiled. And I was like, God, you're amazing. Like, you try to speak to my wife, who clearly is smarter than me, and telling me to slow down with my life. I didn't listen. I'm rushing back with coffee to get to my desk to crush the world. And you put a slug, like a 5-inch slug, impossible to miss, dead. And I've got 4 big panes of glass. It's a pretty wide office. It's narrow, but it's really wide. So 4 huge panes of glass. He puts it in the middle one, dead in the middle. What are the chances? And it wasn't there like 30 minutes earlier before I went to go get the kids, ready and all the food. Slugs don't move that fast. The fact that it somehow was in the dead middle of the middle pane glass, to me, it made no sense. I'm not even trying to figure it out. I was like, did a bird drop this thing here? Like, how did it even get here in the last 30 minutes? Because it wasn't there earlier. You don't miss a 5-inch slug like that. And once again, if you don't know what a slug is, you can Google it. It looks like a massive, huge, thick snail without a shell. And like a snail or a turtle, it moves very slow. And so to me, that was the catalyst. Even though I should have listened to my spouse, that was a learning lesson in and of itself. But man, that was to me just a sign of, all right, I got to slow down. And here's what happened next. I did slow down. Like that was something I couldn't ignore, to the point I started writing down notes to share it with you guys. I was like, man, maybe there's someone else going through something like that where you just feel rushed. And the holiday season can do that too. Oh my God, I got to get all these gifts, and I got to do this. And we're traveling, and and we're hosting Thanksgiving dinner, coming up with 30 people. We do have a lot of stuff going on, and even like I said tonight with a funeral and family coming in town. There's just a lot of stuff going on. And I was like, you know what? That doesn't mean I'm going to go slumber and just walk around in slow mode. There are certain things that are still pretty important, but I'm not going to let it stress me out. I'm certainly not going to be to the point where I'm making an impact on my kids and my spouse to the point they bring it up like, Dad, you just seem rushed and you don't even have time for us. You're rushing through everything. Even my talk with God, I had to apologize to God. God, sorry for rushing through that because I had so much stuff to get done that was more important. It's just such a good reminder that God has his thumb on all of it, one, and that God already has a plan for us. And no matter how much we rush through it and stress ourselves out, it's not really going to change stuff. We think it is, but it's really not. And I've had countless times where I've been in this rush, and maybe you have too, where I think I'm going to change stuff. Like I think I'm really going to alter the course of this. And then all of a sudden something else breaks or something else happens. Like, it's like, a movie where you see they're got a plumbing issue, and all of a sudden they fix that one as fast as they can. There's another leak somewhere else. That seems to happen when you try to alter the course. And many times that is a sign of just, all right, let's slow down. Let's think through this. What's truly important here? Why am I rushing? Like, is this really going to change anything? And I realized most of the things that I was rushing through and towards weren't really that important. I thought they were, but when I really stood back and was like, and here's a really, really powerful litmus test. If I had, let's just say I passed away, absolute worst case scenario. If I passed away right now on the spot, and it's weird to even say that, but if I did, all these things that I'm trying to juggle right now would drop to the ground. If someone else, let's just say my spouse or a coworker, my brother, whoever, had to come in and kind of clean up, if you will, would they look at those things as urgent now that I'm not there anymore? Which ones would they pick up? Let's just say I was juggling 10 balls. Would they pick up any of them? And when I thought about it like that, a little bit morbid, but let's just say even just something happened. You broke your leg, you had to go to the hospital, whatever, appendicitis, something worse than death. What would happen? And I've played that out even with my wife when I see her doing too much stuff. And I was like, you don't tell your spouse this, but I was like, you know what? If you passed away right now or went to the hospital and I see there's stuff juggling, like I wouldn't be as stressed out as you are. And I certainly wouldn't care about half this stuff. I would just shove it to the side and say, it can be done later. It's not life or death. It's really, honestly, not that important at all. And I think so many times we see all these balls, and sometimes we almost get addicted to the sense of urgency and the feeling of doing all this stuff and balancing and, managing 15 different things. It's almost like I don't know if we take pride in it or the pride of just getting all this stuff done. The multitasking, if you will, which is, proven to be something that is not really that efficient in the big scheme of things. And so I found myself looking at all these things that I was juggling and, and not stressed out about, but sense of urgency about. And I realized, man, half these don't really matter. And I'm not really on a time crunch. I'm just trying to prove that I'm great to my new boss and the new company. And in many cases, it's the quickest way to burn yourself out and be sloppy and even cut corners and have things start falling. And so it was such a good reminder to slow down, to have patience, to trust in God's plan. That once again doesn't mean you can just sleep in till noon and think that it's all just going to happen. I think God still wants us to be our absolute best and take massive action every day. But it doesn't mean we have to do it to the point it stresses you out. It builds anxiety. Your family can feel it, like literally. and you're now not giving them attention. You're rushing through conversations. You're rushing through lunches. You're rushing through your connection with God. I don't think that is healthy. And I did a whole podcast on this about Jesus. There's a lot of evidence that he never was rushed. Not once in the Bible did they mention Jesus running, sprinting, having anxiety, snapping a whip on his donkey's butt to go faster. Sorry, joke there. Not once was Jesus in a rush to get things done, and yet he knew when his time was up. I mean, we all think, oh, we're going to live to 100. He knew he wasn't. He didn't have that much time in the big scheme of things. As someone 30-something years old, like, I may not have that much time, but I know what God's plan is. I know where I have to be. I know what has to get done, and I'm going to trust them and just keep walking. I mean, he walked most places. Either walk or took a donkey. Donkeys aren't fast. You might as well walk. I mean, donkeys could carry a little bit more of a load. But if he was in a rush, there were horses back then. He would have taken a horse-drawn carriage, something that was faster. Not once did he do that. So let's be more like Jesus. When we see slugs in our life, that doesn't mean that there will be times where you have to get stuff done and get stuff done fast. We've all been there, but it doesn't mean everything has to be there. And there are some times when God puts signs in your life or a spouse in your life that says, honey, I see what you are doing, and it's not healthy. You need to slow down. You listen. And if God puts a slug in the middle of your window in the middle of the day when you've never seen one before, in the middle of the morning, you take that as a sign to say, you know what? I hear you. I'm slowing down. And so that's what I'm going to be working on, guys. If you're in the same boat, maybe you're having that same season of just feel like you're doing too much and lots of stuff going on with the holidays coming up. Take a deep breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth, and slow the heck down. Slow your roll. Guys, love you. Hope this was helpful. Hopefully hit the right person, the right time, in a slow time. Talk to you on the next episode. Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul.